no such thing as keeping your old sinful nature alive. You do not have a born-again nature and a sinful nature in you at the same time. That's schizophrenic. And this, sad to say, is what many Christians are. On one hand, they just love God and they desire to live for God. But on the other hand, they're saying, well, I'm just an old sinner saved by grace. And so if a temptation comes along, they submit because that's who they are. That's the way they see themselves. You aren't schizophrenic. You don't have dual natures. Jesus died unto sin once, and in the same way, we are to reckon ourselves dead unto sin once. Now, you still deal with temptation and a lust and a propensity for sin, not because you're driven to it by your nature, but just because you haven't renewed your mind. You still see yourself as an old sinner, and you haven't renewed your mind. You don't know your true identity. Man, that's awesome. Those are awesome, the things that I'm saying. This has just literally changed my life. You know, again, I could spend a lot of time going into detail, but just to summarize it, I was raised with a knowledge of God and a knowledge that I was a sinner and that I needed God. And even when I got born again at 8 years old, I was told that I still had that sinful nature. And because of it, I just had no confidence. I was introverted, I was fearful, and man, when I had this experience with the Lord when I was 18 years old, 1968, and God began to reveal to me who I was in Christ, and I began to see that I no longer am all of these things. I felt trapped. I felt like this is just who I am. I'm just a real introverted person, and I just can't talk to people, and I can't do things. I've never been the best at anything. Even when I had the ability to succeed, the way I thought would make me fail every single time. I just expected failure. I could spend a lot of time showing that. But when I got hold of these truths, it just liberated me from myself, from the self that I thought I was married to, that I couldn't get free of. I began to realize I was a brand new person in Christ. I began to search the Word and find out who I was and what my capabilities were. And I began to start believing for things that were completely impossible for me in just my natural self, my personality part that had been corrupted and programmed wrong by my sinful nature. I began to recognize I was a new person, and I tell you, miracles started happening. I started doing things that I would have never have done before. I'm sharing this with you because there are some of you that you hear me testify about what God has done in my life, and I've seen people raised from the dead, blind eyes open, deaf ears open, and you rejoice, and you don't doubt that it'll work for me, but you can't see it happening for you because, again, you have this image on the inside of you just being a failure. You see you corrupted, contaminated by sin, and you believe you're forgiven. If you die, you'll go to heaven, but you cannot believe that you could just be free of all of these hang-ups and things. You've had things happen to you, and you're limping through life because of it. I'm telling you, if you could understand what we're saying, and if you could understand that you died to that sinful nature the way that Jesus died when he took our sinful nature into him. He only died one time. He's not in heaven today dying to that sinful nature and all of the lust and the problems that it produces. He died unto that sin one time, and you and I died with him. And in the same way as he died once and is now alive and living to God, I now died to that sin nature one time, and I am now living for God. And I'm in the process of renewing my mind and getting rid of all of this stinking thinking that my old nature left behind. And to the degree that I do that, I am experiencing a supernatural life. I'm experiencing the joy and the peace of God. I'm experiencing healing. I'm experiencing prosperity, deliverance. I've got vision. I'm not introverted anymore. The Lord has totally transformed me. I am not an old sinner that has learned how to cope and just stop the actions of sin. The nature of sin was taken out of me. And now through the renewing of my mind, my new nature is dominating me and controlling me. Man, that's awesome. I don't do it perfectly, but I guarantee you, I've seen enough success. I know I'm moving in the right direction. I hadn't arrived, but I've left. And I can tell you, I'm seeing this produce in my life. And I really believe that this is what many, if not all, most of the people watching this program, you need a real revelation that your old man, your old nature is gone.